I am someone who believes that every single person on this earth has something good to offer. Apart from a soul, I think all of us has special talents deep inside that makes us human. Some got it immediately, some take a while to realize it, but it's certain there's something inside all of us waiting to be shared with everyone. Whether in art, sports, intellect, everyone has a purpose to share in life. Just maybe not K-pop soloists. Hear ye, hear ye. I am not here to single out every K-pop soloist out there. By the end of the video you're going to see how much positive things I actually say, because the fact is, a lot of them are pretty good, some even great. I think the industry, for the most part at least, has made the right choices on who or not they want to make a soloist. Notice how I said most? Yes, because another fact is, some of these soloists were too forced on our throats, and that low-key pisses me off. Well, just ignore them, Rosie, you dumbo. Well, yes, but freedom of speech. I personally believe that some of these soloists are genuinely undeserving of the title, and I don't mean that lightly. If I were one of these better K-pop soloists and I see myself being labeled in the same category as the weaker ones, I'd actually start tweaking. I obviously don't and have no reason to hate any of these people, but I just can't place them in the same league as those ones who are deserving to be a soloist. Why am I making such a big deal of this unharmful thing, you ask? Well, when I see someone underperforming on stage, giving the bare minimum, especially when they have millions of fans around the world, my eye twitches a bit. There are most likely hundreds of potential idol artists out there who deserves a shot on this career path, yet not everyone gets the opportunity. And I know K-pop likes to milk the fuck out their artists every opportunity they get, because money. But at the very least put effort into the product, Now before I start sounding like a Reddit K-pop rant thread, let me present my case. As I said, there have been some pretty weak soloists in the industry, but at the same time some really good ones too. So let's discuss what differentiates the two. Before we proceed, let me just make it clear that I am talking about K-pop soloists born from pre-existing K-pop groups. And to keep it simple, I'll present a criteria of what I think makes a K-pop soloist. These characteristics are, in my opinion, what a soloist needs to be a successful solo artist. But before that, I'd like to give a big thank you to Fashion Chingu for sponsoring this video. If you may or may not know, Fashion Chingu is an online retail shop that offers K-pop and K-drama fashion-inspired replicas. You can check out tons of similar fashion items you'd usually see idols wear on occasions like shows, photo shoots, and a lot more. The best part is, they are very affordable, and accessible worldwide as they offer shipping everywhere. Click the link in the description below or in the pinned comment, and start shopping your heart away. Once again, thank you to the lovely people at Fashion Chingu for sponsoring this video. Well duh. Do I even need to explain this one? If you're not talented enough, you have no reason to be on stage. But to be exact, I don't need you to be talented in all areas. I just expect you to either be very good at singing, dancing, rapping, or writing. Excel in just any one of these and I believe you are worthy to be on stage as someone who has something to prove. Of course, it's also beneficial to be talented in all aspects. I know K-pop stans got an addiction with all-rounders and multi-talented idols, and I get it, of course, but that's not entirely necessary. Which leads me to my next point. Stage presence. I know some of you jumped when I said those two words, and let me tell you why. A good number of these idols have very weak stage presence. It may not be noticeable when they are in a group because they got other members balancing the equation, but I swear, put some of these idols on stage alone, no backup dancers or anything, and ask them to perform. It would be boring as hell. Like, girl, go give us nothing. Do I even have to elaborate on this one? Obviously, if you're not able to carry yourself alone on stage, you are not meant to be a solo performer. Now for some, this one is kind of hard to visualize, because in my opinion stage presence isn't supposed to be evaluated visually as some of y'all may think. It's not about dancing hard, or facial expressions, or amazing sets, it's simply just aura. I know aura has become some internet slang lately, but genuinely speaking, some people just have very strong aura. Take IU for example. She just sold out a whole stadium, and some songs she performed had her singing alone with minimal production and anything. Yet, she was shining like a star. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what I call aura. Some of the greatest artists in the world can control a whole crowd just by their own talent and presence alone. And so if you can't even be a little bit interesting in a music bank stage, I'm afraid you are just not fit for the job. Stage presence is interesting because I believe not everyone can be strong in that department. A lot were just born with it, while some take time to build it up. How do you build it up? Well, of course, through experience. And how do you get experience? By performing a lot and having a decently sized following. And how do you get that? Well, make good music. This right here is the barest minimum. If you're going to be an artist, make some good fucking music, right? Some of you might disagree, but I think not every artist are required to perform, or at the least have great stage presence. Frank Ocean hasn't released or performed in nearly 2 centuries, yet he is still a relevant artist through the music he has made. So technically you don't have to be a good performer to be a good soloist. I know K-pop requires performances because that is what makes the industry, but I'd say good music alone can still make you somewhat interesting. Take Chen for example. In my opinion, he has some really great solo music, but he barely performs them. And yet I still think he's one of the better soloists around because of his songs. Though I'd say it's not the strongest, because like half of the Korean music, his songs are ballads, so I wouldn't say it's entirely unique. Good music may be enough, but I think having a solid music identity is also as, if not, more important. This might just be the main point of being a soloist. As an artist, what is it that separates you from the rest? Why must we check you out? What is it exactly that you have to offer? I just know some idols would freeze when asked these questions, because frankly, they don't have the answers. I think we can all agree that the music industry is an oversaturated place, and especially within the K-pop circle. Point a gun to my head and ask me to name 30 K-pop acts that has a unique identity. I'd probably live, to be honest. But ask any more? Just shoot everyone, because I doubt anyone could name more. Now personally, I don't mind K-pop being the way it is. I know companies copy from companies, artists from artists, some heavily inspired, some loosely, and I get it. It's hard to be original. I especially think K-pop groups can be exempted because they are comprised of multiple members with distinct personalities, and it's hard to settle with just one very unique and specific concept. But when you're a soloist, a solo individual, that's a different story. If you aren't a great performer or a little weak in the talent department, at least offer something unique. And I think this is my biggest problem so far. I think some of them just don't offer anything interesting enough for people to be hooked. Another thing, I need K-pop soloists to have at least a single say on what music they'll be making. I don't expect them to write or produce the actual music, but at the very least they should get their hands in production. Creative insights, music choices, just anything that signifies interest in the product they'll be performing. Additionally, while this may not be as important, I think a good soloist is able to separate themselves from the group they were in. This is more of a preference thing. Maybe some of you want your soloists to take some essence from their previous groups, whether it's a similar sound, concept, or lore. But I personally expect and appreciate individuality. What is it about you that deserves a solo album with a solo stage under your own name? Y'all may have some more additional characteristics to this criteria which I'd love to see down in the comments. But ultimately, I believe these are the essentials to building an effective and interesting solo K-pop artist. Now with all that out of the way, who is it in the industry do I think does and doesn't deserve to be a soloist? Let's find out. Okay, bad is kind of mean. So let's call them artistically challenged instead. Choi has always been her. She sings, she dances, she's charming and conventionally attractive, and basically everything else you'd want from an idol. The only real problem is she stops there. There is absolutely no reason other than fan service and money for her to be a soloist. Well, to be fair, I can say that with anyone else, but they eventually prove that while they can be a member, they can also be a soloist that offers something interesting, and sometimes unique. But nothing from her debut was any of that. It also didn't help that her skills weren't overall the best, even just within her group. I don't know how should I kindly put this, but this didn't need to exist. But at least Choi released a song with some kind of energy. Jisoo on the other hand probably gave us the most basic song to ever exist, accompanied by the most basic of performances. Here's the thing, I actually thought she would be better. I thought she would have a ballad-centric song that was going to trend everywhere. Because in my opinion YG has produced some really good ballads, and most of them have garnered a pretty big and positive reaction from people. I thought Jisoo was going to give us a YG ballad classic, but unfortunately no. They managed to give us a song that lacks in every aspect. I can name 5 million songs better than Flower if I had the time, because it genuinely was just nothing. Y'all will jump me for this one, but we all know why she's a soloist right now. You don't train for 7 years, get yourself in the final lineup, participate in 2 releases, and just leave to become a soloist. She was a very valuable member of the group. As far as I remember, she was one of, if not the most popular member during the pre-debut. So it's very unfortunate that all her star power didn't work out for her as a soloist. Her music was alright, but she either wasn't ready or just isn't fit to be a soloist, and her following wasn't strong enough to back her up. In general, I don't think any of these idols are horrible. They are great members, they got their own talents, and that's nice. It's just that I don't think they deserve to have such projects. An idol like Xiaomin is amazing at his job, but damn, I couldn't give a shit about his solo work. And that's for a lot of these so-called K-pop soloists. K-pop already feels manufactured enough that I don't think we need to pretend idols need a solo career. SM is notorious for sending their idols to solo camp after their groups reach a certain point in their careers. Sometimes it's great that it happens, but then there's the other half. My biggest problem is, why are we investing so much time, resources, and money into these projects, when we can invest it into something else that could be much better? Don't even get me started with the Narvis bullshit. I know she isn't technically real, but it does feel the same way. Starting a project that no one asked for. Actually, I'm wrong. Fans do ask for these solo gigs, and I'd say they are a part of the problem. Once a member of a group goes solo, it suddenly triggers fans to start thinking, okay, if she gets a solo, then she needs one too, right? Wrong. They immediately think that the first member to get a solo means they are the favorite or whatever, and had they not given the rest a solo, then it would only confirm their favoritism towards that member. Not to glaze these companies, but I'm pretty sure industry-renowned producers would make better decisions on this matter over K-pop stans online. But even worse, sometimes it's the other way around. These companies know how famous and popular these idols are, and to them, they are a product. They are easy money. Literally give them the bare minimum and you'll still be getting bank just with their name and face alone. It honestly would have been fine if every soloist was mediocre, but that is not the case. The bar is so fucking high that I just can't not be bothered by it. And so I actually think a good majority of soloists are pretty good, with some too great for the job. If you ever ask me who I think is just a good soloist, I'd like to present Seulgi first. In my opinion, one of the best to ever do it in K-pop, and as a soloist she is heading there. Why exactly do I think she's not quite there yet? Well, I believe she'll need more material. That's honestly another problem I have with these soloists. They just don't have a second project. A lot of them can prove themselves further, yet never get the opportunity to do so. All that potential wasted for nothing. But I hope Seulgi does get it, because I know she has it in her. Take a look at Moon Byul for example. She's had plenty of solo projects under her name, and I'd say it's very deserving of her. I think her music ranges from good to great, expresses a diverse range, and overall showcases a unique flair that she possesses. The only problem? I think she lacks stage presence. Like I said, many factors contribute to building an incredible solo artist, and while she is pretty good, I still would like to see her improve on that department. And Soyeon is kind of the exact opposite. She is overflowing with charisma and talent, worth more than most groups these days. She's a star and you could not take that from her even if you tried. She's always been someone not afraid to talk about relatively sensitive topics in K-pop, and that alone makes her stand out. But I can't truly consider to be all great when some of her music is a hard pill to swallow. The fact is, she's made some great music already, just not always. And I just wish she's a little more consistent in presenting her art that matches her artistry. I'd actually consider 60% of K-pop soloists to be lacking in just one or two departments. And while it may not be that big of a problem, I still find the lack of push to be a little second rate. I wish these companies and idols push themselves a little more, because in my opinion, being called a solo artist is a prestigious honor. And that prestigious level wouldn't be possible if it weren't for these amazing soloists that make this part of the industry worth checking out. Frankly, I think they deserve to be simply called artists alone. This is the category of idols who are just too good at the game, that sometimes I believe that they have outgrown themselves from the group they are in. I can faintly remember a time when Baekhyun was considered to be a weak idol. Other than singing, many said he lacked in presence, dancing skills, and other things. Which in hindsight is so fucking crazy, because he has proven it all wrong. Sure, maybe at the time he was a little weak, but that's what makes him so impressive now. He knew how to elevate his group with his skills, and has become the voice and face of the group. And as a soloist, he's talented, his music ranged from good to amazing, and he knows how to carry himself. This is a man who continues to prove himself even when he has proven everything, and that's what makes him great. Taeyeon is arguably the best K-pop soloist in history. Coming from one of the most influential K-pop groups, it seemed impossible for her to outdo the work she's done in Girls' Generation. Standing out from 9 other people is hard, but if you're Taeyeon, that's not a problem. She has more than solidified herself as a capable performer, with talent some would only wish to have, and almost 20 years later she is still strong in the game. Unlike the last two, she's quite new in the industry, but dare I say she's one of the best individual artists in K-pop right now. That's mostly credited to her talent and willingness to write her own songs, which is something you don't usually see in K-pop. She hasn't officially debuted yet as a soloist, but I just know when she does, she'll be inspiring to many. Speaking of writing your own music, I have to talk about Woods. Here's someone who hasn't and unfortunately might never get the recognition he deserves. Woods presents a unique flair that again most soloists don't possess. He's a very talented and impressive performer. I'd say one of the best right now. This is why I almost abhor the idea of giving solo projects to just anyone. Because it's somewhat unfair. Big names with big money can just put out anything and garner all the traction, while smaller singer-songwriters like Woods barely get a fraction of it. But not all big names fail to deliver. Na Yeon is a prime example of companies milking the shit out of their idols done right. Being one of, if not the most popular member of one of the biggest girl groups ever, and handing her a solo project equals easy money. But unlike some others, Na Yeon is a solid performer with solid skills, and JYP only needed to do one thing, and that is give her great music. I don't think this girl has reached her maximum potential yet as an artist, so I definitely see her getting better in the future. And above all I've mentioned for these artists, great conceptualization and production helps a lot as well. It's a simple idea really, you're either cut for the job, or you're not. I'd love to go in depth with more out there, but the video is already too long and I've kind of made my point. So let me just skim through some more briefly. Chung Ha is one of those idols who has proven many times that she's better off as a soloist than a member, and it was definitely proven as she's become a bigger name than the group she came from. CL is someone who has always stood out from her group, and likewise has stood out from the rest of the K-pop industry, by flipping the entire image of what an idol looks like. J-Hope probably has the most distinct sound and style from any of these soloists, that it's almost kind of crazy to see. BTS rap line has always shown their talents in creating art, so I can't say I'm surprised. Taemin, T, Onyu, are members of the same group, yet individually offers something special on their own, and in return makes their group even more impressive. Sunmi, who's been one of the most consistent, influential, and iconic female figures in the industry, shows us how an amazing solo career increases longevity. To me, G-Dragon has always been an individual artist first before a group member. This guy has got so much presence that he could stand in the middle of the field and somehow outperform half of the industry. His influence is so strong that it has created multiple copycats, yet no one has come close. There's a reason why he's got titles such as the King of K-pop, or a once-in-a-thousand-year idol, often imitated, but never duplicated. Lisa is one of the few idols who is attempting to branch out of the K-pop circle, and that immediately makes me respect her more. She may not be considered as a K-pop soloist in this new era of hers, but she still was in fact is a K-pop idol, and one of the few who actively pursues new ways to express themselves. That is something you can't just say with anyone. RM is probably on a league of his own, as his latest album defies everything that makes a K-pop album. It was experimental, unusual, and very personal. It's almost out of place to put him here because he might just be outside of the K-pop discussion, surpassing it even. I don't expect every soloist to just get outside the K-pop circle, but it is still an impressive feat. RM represents a creative individual with a vision outside of the boundaries of K-pop music. And if truth be told, he's more than just a K-pop soloist. He is an artist. See, I think most K-pop soloists are actually good. I just always had a big problem with companies and even fans thinking that every idol deserves a solo project. Because they don't, and that's genuinely not a bad thing. As long as they continue to play their part in the group they're in, I think they'll have a good and proper career ahead of them. Just don't be pretentious and act like you deserve a solo act. Companies, stop giving your most underwhelming members the most underwhelming projects. Use that money on literally anything else, please. And to the fans, stop gagging at anything. Stop accepting the lowest bar because trust me, it will only get lower from here, and you are not going to like it. I don't know. You can say I'm overreacting, but I'm personally not going to settle for less.